Hey guys, welcome to That Florida Feeling. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody that had to deal with spring break had good experiences. Just want to give a quick shout out to Unfiltered Studios and everybody who's over there doing great things. If you're looking for new podcasts, check them out. A lot of good people over there with some amazing podcasts. It's kind of like you can find something for everybody. And if you're even looking for a short one, check out Stupid History Minute. It's literally a minute. Thank you to everybody who's interacted with the social media pages. You guys are awesome. I love all the likes, comments, shares, and that really does help support the podcast. So thank you as always. If you guys have any ideas for topics, just message me. I promise I do listen. So today I'm going to explore one of those towns that always comes up on those lists of worst towns to live in Florida. If you've seen them on TikTok or Facebook, even Yahoo. Anybody still use Yahoo randomly? I do sometimes. But this town always comes up on the list. So like, is it really that bad? So let's explore it. I've been to it, and I'll hold judgment until the end. This town sits right on the banks of the Okeechobee. It's in the beautiful Everglades, and the weather is actually pretty consistent. So why is Belle Glade really that bad? Belle Glade is in South Central Florida. It's the very western part of Palm Beach County, and it sits on the southern shores of Lake Okeechobee. It is considered part of the Miami metro area. I don't know how, but you know what? I know Miami's big, but it's not that big. Belle Glade and the whole area around Lake Okeechobee, though, kind of got a bad rap because they're usually referred to as Muck City. And that's due to large quantities of muck. Muck is what sugarcane grows in, and it just kind of surrounds the town. But I think that's an unfair name. It's not that bad. The Belle Glade or Okeechobee culture actually was an archaeological culture that extended around Lake Okeechobee and into the lower Kissimmee River Valley long time ago. So these people have inhabited this land like for a very, very long time. It existed from as early as 1000 BCE to about 1700 CE. And the culture is named for the Belle Glade site, which was excavated in the mid-1930s as part of Civil Works Administration project. The Belle Glade site does actually have its own burial mound, so it's actually a really cool site. And it's got a lot of history there. So this area has been agriculturally developed for a very, very long time. But the actual town of Belle Glade wasn't actually founded until about the 1920s when Florida had its big land boom. And of course, during that period, there was a lot of people wanted to drain the Everglades to be able to build on. It doesn't work that way. And a lot of efforts were made to put in drainage systems to reclaim dry land from the Everglades around Belle Glade. And that also includes the land around Lake Okeechobee. It hoped to reclaim acreage that could be put for better use that actually also includes agriculture. In 1921, the Florida legislature established an agriculture research station at Belle Glade to study methods of growing crops in the reclaimed Everglades land. So they did drain some of it. They were able to drain some of it. But for the most part, that was not a good idea. I did see something the other day where somebody was asking, well, why don't they build in the Everglades? Okay, well, one, it's protected, and two, good luck. And at the time that they actually started the study in 1921, sorry, I had to do that side rant. There were already 16 settlements on or around Lake Okeechobee that had about 2,000 people surrounding the lake. So it was, it kind of became pretty popular. Now, the town of Belle Glade was originally named Hillsborough, and it was officially changed to Belle Glade in 1925. In 1926, the Florida East Coast Railway extended its system to Belle Glade, which actually was hopeful for the town's development. And a lot of things did develop until something bad happened. Something that Florida is very used to. A very bad hurricane. A powerful hurricane struck the area on September 16th, 1928. This is known as the Okeechobee Hurricane. I did talk about this in an episode. This is one of the worst hurricanes to hit the state. And it's not necessarily because of the hurricane itself. I'll tell you in a second. The storm actually caused Lake Okeechobee to overflow its banks, and that kind of caused flooding, major flooding. It inundated the towns around the lake, causing major damage even in Belle Glade. According to figures compiled by the Florida Department of Health, the storm actually killed 611 people in Belle Glade alone, and 1,800 statewide. Contemporary accounts stated that most of the dead were black migrant farm workers, and a large percent were believed to be from the Bahamas. Now, this hurricane was awful. It was just really awful. But what made it worse was they misguessed the timing of the hurricane. And a lot of people thought they'd be okay even if they stayed through the hurricane, because like Belle Glade was, built around the lake, and they already had a couple like dikes in place to protect the towns, but none of them actually did their job. The strong winds actually struck southern Florida as the hurricane moved ashore. There were a lot of unofficial reports of 100-mile-an-hour winds in Miami. Key West was reporting 40-mile-an-hour winds, and it basically hit and moved directly over Lake Okeechobee. The winds at the canal point, which are adjacent to the lake, were hitting as high as 160 miles per hour, and the actual wind measuring equipment blew away. Like, they lost it. The pressure point at Canal Point, which is near the lake, dropped to 942 mbars, which is the lowest pressure north of Lake Okeechobee, which was 966. What that means is this is a very strong, very powerful, very bad hurricane. As far up as Bartow, they were reaching between 30 and 50 miles per hour. Now, once the hurricane swept through and basically destroyed Belle Glade, a lot of people, thousands of people, were left homeless in Florida. Property damage was estimated at that time at $25 million, which would be about $500 million in today's estimates. So basically, it just wiped out the whole town of Belle Glade. Like, if a similar storm were to hit now, it would be in the billions for damages. The Lake Okeechobee hurricane is one of the cyclones that are the lowest pressure point. Other ones were the 1926 Miami and then Hurricane Andrew in 92. So you can see why Belle Glade did not stand a chance. And what was worse is it didn't just destroy the town, it also destroyed 1,300 livestock, 48,000 poultry, and agriculture. It basically just destroyed the entire livelihood of Belle Glade, which was agriculture. I mean, it basically just wiped out what would have been the largest citrus crop in the history of the industry. Was just gone. It ruined 6% of the oranges and 18% of the grapefruits. Basically, they didn't have really a crop to like harvest that year in Belle Glade. Now, like I said, the problem is that the residents had been warned to evacuate the low ground earlier in the day, but the hurricane didn't arrive on schedule. Many thought they had actually missed it. It had turned and went back to their homes. The thing, though, is in the weeks prior to the storm, it's rainy season, so heavy rainfall had already caused the lake to rise 3 feet. So all those canals and ditches that were supposed to save the town were already full. And then the precipitation from the actual hurricane caused the lake to rise even further. And when the worst of the storm actually crossed the lake, it caused the storm surge overflow to actually go to the south end of the lake, which is where Belle Glade unfortunately sits. The flood covered in hundreds of areas of just miles, really, honestly, miles of water that were more than 20 feet deep. Houses were floated off their foundations, smashed to pieces. Most survivors and bodies were washed out into the Everglades. A lot of people were never found. Agricultural losses in the area surrounding Lake Okeechobee were so significant, it virtually destroyed all the crops and all the machinery to use in agriculture. The eye wall did pass over Belle Glade, and it was said to say that there was over 600 people that died. Now, the other problem is once the hurricane went on, the floodwaters didn't just go away. They actually sat around for several weeks. And honestly, this is a problem in that area every time there's a bad hurricane. When Ian hit, I know parts of like Arcadia in that area, kind of a little bit north of the lake, just pretty much stayed flooded for months almost. Because it is so low. It is such a low-lying area. The waters after the storm persisted for weeks, greatly impeding the attempts to clean up, and they couldn't even get the town rebuilt. Burial services were overwhelmed, that most people were buried in mass graves, And since 75% of the fatalities were migrant farm workers, they either they couldn't identify them or they didn't know their real name. And then that also meant that when they went to harvest whatever they could, they didn't have enough people to help. So Belle Glade kind of really didn't stand a chance during the hurricane, and then it never really got the chance to rebuild. Unfortunately, though, the town is still known for other things. German prisoners of war were actually confined in camps at Belle Glade and near Clewiston during World War II. I didn't know that until I was really looking into Belle Glade. I find that to be kind of strange. I mean, yeah, if you're going to put them somewhere, I guess put them in the Everglades, but, like, I feel for the town. But also, Belle Glade had another reason that it kind of got noticed. In the early 1980s, researchers began to notice a large number of people with AIDS living in the Belle Glade area. The disease was first identified by doctors in New York and California in 1981, and it was largely associated with communities of gay men in and around large cities. In Belle Glade, though, a lot of people that had AIDS were identifying as heterosexual, and half of them were women. Some researchers, and notably Dr. Mark Whiteside and Dr. Carolyn McLeod of the Institute of Tropical Medicine in Miami, hypothesized that AIDS in Belle Glade might be connected to poverty and poor living conditions in the city's areas. Because it was really only in high parts of Belle Glade where they were, where it was showing up. Their theory, along with very high per capita AIDS in Belle Glade, also brought notoriety to the town as the AIDS capital of the world. I don't know that I would want that title. I don't. Whiteside and McLeod's theory turned out to be incorrect about it being in the poorer areas, but subsequent research conducted in Belle Glade shaped a specific knowledge about the transmission of the HIV and AIDS virus through heterosexual, we'll say, relations. So it seems like they only thought that, people that were gay could get it, which is an absolute stupid theory. But Belle Glade, unfortunately, got the name AIDS capital of the world, and it helped shape their theory as to how AIDS is actually contracted or spread. Today, the area still sits on Lake Okeechobee, obviously, and it is fertile, and farming and agriculture is their main industry. Sugarcane and some vegetables are the main crops in this area. Belle Glade does still rely on a huge workforce of migrant farm workers. And actually what's funny is, like, if you go down there, like I've been there a bunch, you can see buses just taking the migrant workers out into the fields. Of course, Belle Glade received national attention in 1960 when a CBS television documentary, Harvest of Shame, geographically depicted the local migrant farm workers' daily existence and working conditions. Of course, it's not great. You're literally working in the hot Florida sun in a field. Hey guys, I just want to take a second to tell you about Maine Love Water. It's rooted in Maine, it's made with care, and it's designed to refresh body and mind. Stay hydrated, stay present, and enjoy Maine Love Water. Like, I get it. I do, but at the same time, like, you gotta harvest crops, and that's how it happened. That's how it's still done, unfortunately. And what they painted was they showed actually how the migrant workers, their daily lives. So men and women would gather around 5 a.m. in the same lot. You'd see the beginning of the Harvest of Shame. They'd wait on the buses to take them to the fields. And then the loading ramp, as it's called, which was a empty lot surrounded by some buildings with bars on the windows and a boarded up storefront. So basically they went to an abandoned gas station and they would pick up everybody. But the loading ramp is actually still, it did still exist for a very long time. The city finally demolished the loading ramp and turned it into a park. And basically what it was just a place where migrant workers could, it basically it was where they picked up or where they would stay. I have seen parts of the documentary and it does not paint a good picture, but like, that's the reality of it. A lot of people come here to try to live and make a living, and sometimes that's the work that they have to do. And unfortunately, it's not a pretty picture. And it still happens to this day. But Belle Glade has other things going for it, that's right on the banks of Lake Okeechobee. They actually have a really nice park. But also one thing it is known for is its football tradition. Belle Glade and Pahokee, which is nearby, sent at least 60 players to the National Football League so far. So, it's pretty good for athletics. Now, of course, Belle Glade also has the cane sugar mill, the Sugar Mill Cane Growers Cooperative, which is actually located in Belle Glade. And during the crop season, it actually employs up to 550 people. So it is seasonal work, mostly in Belle Glade. The unemployment in the town is above 15%. In fact, some suggest it's closer to 40, which is not good. The number of jobs are available locally as agriculture comes in, but then when it doesn't, you're found looking for a job. There is a post office in Belle Glade, and the Florida Department of Corrections does operate the Glade Correctional Institute, is in an unincorporated area of Palm Beach County near Belle Glade. It was founded in 1932. It was scheduled for closure. They did close it, but you still have people doing things there. So it kind of open, kind of. The Lake Okeechobee Scenic Trail does actually run through Belle Glade, so if you're looking to get out and see nature and wildlife, then definitely go check out that trail. Now, by all appearances, Belle Glade is another small Florida town, but the impact of several disasters, mainly being hurricanes, has really kind of prevented this town from rising above what it is. Unfortunately, the city does experience both high violent and high property crime rates, as well as high poverty. All of that exceeds the state's averages. Recent reports include multiple shootings and homicides, contributing to the feeling of insecurity in the community. Now, this could be a great spot in Florida. It really could. I mean, it sits right on the banks of the lake. It's got some great wildlife. You're basically at the door of the Everglades. But it's not. It's just not there. The town is agriculturally important to the sugarcane industry. It does sit on the natural wonder of Lake Okeechobee, but it's just never quite gotten the ability to rise above. Now, you're going to meet nice people there. There are some actually really great restaurants, some really great places to visit the lake. But you probably will also meet Florida Man. Just saying. Florida Man today comes from Plant City. Florida Man pulled over after several calls to emergency services due to missiles being on the bed of his truck. This was actually just last week. And I saw this and I just thought, oh my gosh. If I'm going to drive around missiles, I'm not going to have them strapped to the bed of a Ford Ranger. The bomb squad was actually called out to help with the traffic stop after police stopped Mr. Michael Nipper. The missiles were proven to be just props for events. And a lot of people were actually commenting about this on the Instagram post for Florida Highway Patrol. A lot of them were divided about, first of all, why would you call it in? Like I said, if I'm going to be driving around missiles, it's not going to be in the bed of a Ford Ranger or an F-150 or a Dodge Ram. None of that. No. Like, personally, if I see an older pickup truck being driven by an older person and they have missiles, I'm probably going to assume that they're just pissed off at their healthcare company. Like, that's it. I don't think they're plotting mass destruction. I think that they either have a really cool hobby or they're mad as hell at the healthcare. Either way, some days just mind your business. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed learning about Belle Glade. I can't even say, like, drive through it. There are some amazing restaurants. But I would not recommend staying overnight. This is one time I will actually tell you, this is probably not for you. The town has a really unique history. It has rebuilt over some major destructions, but it is not for everybody. It's not, guys. But it's still part of Florida and that Florida feeling. Hope you enjoyed this episode, guys. If you want to hear something, please reach out. I would love it. If you want to leave a review, I would really appreciate that. I've gotten some great ones lately, so thank you again to those of you who've left them. Guys, it's hot out now, so drink your water, wear your sunscreen, and as always, that's your daily dose of sunshine.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.